Section 20 of Music by Ursula Creighton. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 20, Mendelssohn and Chopin. 6 years later than Berlioz, another now well-known composer was born, Felix Mendelssohn, 1809 to 1847. His life and circumstances and his work are a complete contrast to those of his French contemporary. Mendelssohn never knew poverty or any lasting unhappiness. He had every advantage that wealth and a cultivated, happy home could give him, and he had great natural gifts. At the age of 17, he wrote his octet, a work for 8-string instruments, which shows wonderful understanding of the power and beauty of strings. Also, at this early age, he wrote his overture to the Midsummer Night's Dream, lovely, fresh, original, fairy-like music. He never wrote better music than this, though he continued composing industriously all his life and produced many other works still known and valued. His oratorio, Elijah, is very popular and full of melody. His shorter pianoforte works are finished and lovely, and his organ works very beautiful. He was indeed a very gifted, cultivated musician. In his light, delicate music, such as his Hebrides Overture, which expresses great feeling for the country, he has written really beautiful work. His life, except for music, was uneventful. Brought up in Berlin, in a large house where musical evenings and afternoons were a regular part of daily life, and where all he composed, even as a boy, was performed, he grew up in a very cultivated atmosphere. He made friends wherever he went, and knew all the famous people of the day, musicians, artists, and literary men. He knew Goethe well, and often stayed with him. England he often visited, and he always warmly appreciated the welcome English audiences gave him and their enthusiasm for his playing and compositions, for he was a wonderful pianoforte and organ player and an excellent conductor. The post he held which gave him most happiness was that of director of the Gewandhaus concerts at Leipzig. There he worked hard, producing works by the great musicians he revered, Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, and Haydn. He welcomed any artist who came to Leipzig and helped their concerts. Here, too, he produced, after 100 years of neglect, Bach's Matthew Passion, and so began that appreciation of Bach's music which led to the great edition of his works, the Bach Gesellschaft edition. Here also he started, with some other artists, the Conservatoire for teaching music, and himself worked there, enthusiastically teaching piano and composition. Mendelssohn had a wonderful memory, always conducting by heart even long works like Bach's Matthew Passion. But he found arranging and conducting concerts a great strain on his highly strung temperament, far more fatiguing than composing, and as years went by he wished more and more to give up all outside activity and live a very quiet life, writing music and devoting his leisure to his own domestic circle. His music seems to be the outcome of his happy life and cheerful nature, full of melody, beautifully finished, and the work of a most gifted personality. It never touches those depths of feeling that some other composers have sounded. The passion that lies beyond suffering was not a part of Mendelssohn's life, and it is lighter qualities we look for in his work and find in perfection. He is one of the great composers and has left noble and beautiful music, some full of imagination and all with finished beauty which came from his genius and character. Very different was another composer born in the same year, François Frédéric Chopin, 1809 to 1849. Chopin's short life was completely devoted to music in one form, music for the piano, the instrument which he himself played and which he treated in a most individual way. Each of his works is full of delicate beauties, belonging peculiarly to himself. His lovely melodies have underlying them intricate and original harmonies, and are enhanced by beautiful cataracts of quick notes, sounding like an extension of the ornaments in old music, which were like the embellishments suitable to a voice, and these passages of sound are constantly varied and extended, and most suitable to the instrument for which they were written. His short works, studies, and preludes are the most perfect. So great is their depth of feeling, so varied the emotions he expresses, and so finished and original their shape and style, that they are really greater than his longer works, sonatas, and concertos, which have beautiful movements, but not the same sustained intensity. Other beautiful and well-known compositions are his nocturnes, ballads, and scherzos, and those most characteristic of his nationality are his dances, polonaises, mazurkas, and waltzes. These last are the best known of all his works and are frequently played at concerts. Each waltz has an individual beauty and a touch of Chopin's genius, though not the depth of feeling to be found in some of his other works. But we hear in them something of Chopin's marvelous feeling for rhythm, as well as his lovely moments of melody and his power of writing almost shimmering passages of sound. There is nothing of the ordinary waltz about these creations of Chopin's, no commonplace movement or sound. Each one has something new and vivid and arresting in quite different ways, as if the possibilities of even such a simple dance, such a simple rhythm, were to him inexhaustible. Chopin was a Pole, brought up near Warsaw and present at many a country fête, where mazurkas were often danced, as well as at parties in noblemen's houses where the polonaise was always danced. He seemed filled with the special spirit of these national dances. He had deep feeling for his country. He left Poland at the age of 21 and never returned, for Warsaw was taken by the Russians in 1830, and thereafter he made his home in Paris. But his heart was with his own people, and it was in their spirit that he found inspiration. In Chopin's youth, the Polish nobles still retained something of their old splendor, partly Eastern in their love of dress and jewels and their hospitality, partly Western in their gallantry and chivalry. A ball in an aristocratic house was a wonderful display of color and movement, and of the martial spirit and courtliness that characterized the Polish nobility. The polonaise was always danced. The host, in a rich dress and ornamented cap, wearing rings and covered with jewels, led the principal lady at the head of a long line of dancers, each with his partner, through the decorated rooms and round the gardens to the sound of music with a stately measured rhythm. Whenever he waved his cap, threw back his furred mantle, or made some graceful movement, the whole line of men behind him imitated him. Chopin's polonaises, as well as conveying the stately rhythm of these gorgeous processions, seemed inspired by something of the grave courage and elegant courtesy that distinguished the dancers. Though similar in rhythm, they are individual and different works. The same can be said of the large number of mazurkas he wrote. The mazurka was a national dance and was enjoyed by rich and poor alike. The couples improvised beautiful movements as well as combining in quick, moving groups. Chopin wrote much lovely music for this dance. The vigor, the vividness, and the concentrated expression which Chopin conveys in his work expressed his inner life, but are a great contrast to his daily existence. His playing, though it won him fame, was too individual and too quiet to impress crowds. Indeed, he seldom gave concerts, and preferred playing to a few chosen friends on a Pleyel piano in his own room. Heine, Liszt, Meyerbeer, George Sand, and other artists and writers frequented his house and appreciated the delicate perfection of his playing and the hidden passion and intensity of his compositions, qualities which they met only in his music, never in their intercourse with him. For to his friends he gave only his gentle, affectionate side, a courtesy and welcome that never failed. His playing never had the force suitable for large public concerts, and he himself was not robust. When he was 27, he had his first alarming illness. George Sand took him to the island of Majorca and nursed him back to health. For years he stayed with her in Paris and at her country house, Nohant, but his health gradually declined. He visited London in 1848 and returned to Paris so ill that he died soon after. The Requiem of Mozart, the composer he most loved, was played at his funeral. End of section 20 of Music by Ursula Creighton. Read by Martha Weller, Champaign, Illinois, March 17, 2024.